Hi, I haven't put up a video for a little while, and today I'm going to be looking at adults and the acquisition of language. Can an adult acquire a language with native fluency? Well, first you have to look at the critical period hypothesis, which says that children can learn a language to a native level by about the first 4 years, and after that it kind of declines until you get to like 16, and by 16 you've had it. You can't pick up a language naturally. That's what the critical hypothesis, the critical period hypothesis says. Well, it's not a hard and fast rule, and it's just a general measure, like a kind of spectrum, and there are plenty of exceptions to that rule, and now we tend to look rather at a sensitive period rather than a critical period. It is generally true that children pick up they acquire a language in a native-like way, and adults tend not to. But it's a tendency, not an absolute rule. So I'm thinking particularly young adults, once you've left school, could you acquire a language with native fluency? Well, yes, you can, because I know people who've actually done it. I know a German lady. I didn't even know she was German until she had a little bit of a difficulty writing, and she said, "Well, I have no trouble writing in German," dashed off a page of German, and she was obviously using German letters, and I just said, "Oh, are you German?" She said, "Oh, yes, yes." And what it turned out, she'd come to Britain as a very, very young person, a young adult to live. She had the local accent and everything. You just wouldn't have guessed she was German. And there have been cases, they looked at some young Finnish women who went to America to marry, and how well they picked up English, and they did pick it up to varying degrees, I think, depending on the women, but they did pick it up with native fluency because they were immersed. You know, they'd gone away to marry, they were immersed in that culture, and the reason they'd gone away, it wasn't to learn a language, it was to marry, and so when you're a young adult, is that a good time to learn a new language? It's probably a really good time. It's probably the best time, because what you get before then, you're in school. You know, even if you relocate to a new country, you don't get a choice. You're in school. You've got this language thrown at you. So you don't really have a choice. You might like the new language, you might not, and that will affect how well you pick it up. But when you're a young adult, you get to about, what, 17, 18. Now that is the time that many people leave home to go to college, perhaps, to go and live in a new country, to work. And the thing is, the brain doesn't actually stop developing until you're about 25. So you're relocating to a new environment, your brain is still developing, And young people, when they move away, you know, they want to develop, they want to learn new things, they're doing stuff on their own for the first time, and it's a time of life when you don't have other responsibilities, so you're not tied down, you're not settled, you don't have that distraction. So you got those years of, like when you're a young 20-something, just to gather knowledge and you know, learn new skills and everything like that. And people who do learn a new language in that, you know, during that time, they're very, very effective learners very often, especially if they've had to move to somewhere the language is spoken and use it on a functional level. So the people who do learn a language with, or acquire a language with native-like fluency, what's so special about them? Well, basically, it's simply the fact that they've moved to a new area. They've become immersed in that culture. Maybe they found a job. They've gone to get married, as in the case of those Finnish women. They've gone to study in a new country, and they haven't necessarily gone to learn the language. The language is actually a byproduct of, say they go to Hungary, for example, to go to university. Well, Hungarian is being spoken all around them. They're going to have to speak Hungarian. So a lot of it just gets naturally soaked up anyway. I mean, they might have gone, say, to study medicine or something. So, you know, their priority is their study. The language is something else that just ends up being a byproduct. So basically these people who are, these young adults who are fantastically good at learning languages, really they're just in the right place at the right time, and you know, they're really lucky people actually. So can an adult acquire a language with native fluency? Yes, they can. What you may find is that only if you know the person and you know they've got a different background, you might sort of hear slightly different vowel sounds, but you'd have to be really listening out for it, as with the German lady. I did occasionally hear, you know, stuff coming from the back of the throat a bit, but I was honestly not aware of it until she mentioned she was German. I thought she was a local lady for years, so yes, that's my video. Happy language learning, everybody.